across Tasmania, this is Tas News 24 with Kane Dello.
Hello and welcome to the program. What's happening in Australia in relation to the ongoing bushfire crisis is horrific. These fires have killed 18 people, have killed close to 500 million animals. It's twice as big as the Amazon rainforest fire, and they're exerting extreme political pressure on Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Earlier, he was heckled in Cobargo in New South Wales. There, 2 people died and many homes have been lost. The Guardian newspaper has compared the main street of the town before and after the fires, and its residents wanted to talk to the Prime Minister.
About the people who what about the people who have nowhere to live?
And here he is again, meeting another angry resident who wants to talk about more support for the rural fire service.
I'm only shaking your hand if you give more funding to our RFS. So many people here have lost their homes.
We need some help.
We need more help.
There's the Prime Minister Scott Morrison shaking the hand from the woman and then walking away as she continued to talk about the help her community needs. Then the Prime Minister turned to a firefighter who was equally unenthused at the idea of shaking the Prime Minister's hand. Well, after these encounters, Scott Morrison said he wasn't surprised that people are feeling very raw, and certainly this crisis bringing incredible pressure on many Australians. Here is some of the most recent pictures. This video is from Victoria, and you can see the scale of not just the fire, but the volume of smoke that's being generated. Many of these are so big, they're even forming their own weather events, which can generate lightning, which in turn can spark more fires. This video released by New South Wales Fire Service show the extreme conditions and heat these women and men are working to fight.
Watch 38 coming down. Fires on the road already. Jasper, put the blanket up.
Now let's look at the fire crisis in terms of figures. The Amazon rainforest of last year burnt through 900,000 hectares. The California wildfires of 2018 burnt through 800,000 hectares. In just New South Wales alone, the fires have burnt through more than 4 million hectares in the last 6 months. That's brought devastating human cost, devastating environmental costs too. Ecologists of the University of Sydney are estimating more than 480 million animals have been killed by these wild bushfires. Koalas have been terribly affected, 8,000 estimated to have died. To put that in context, that is 1/3 of the population of koalas in New South Wales. Now let's hear from some people who have been caught up in these terrible bushfires.
80k an hour, hit the house, and then we ran into the lake. And all the embers and everything were hitting us, burnt our hair a little bit, and we were in there for about an hour before we got rescued.
When something like that stares you in the face, it's very frightening. So I'd like to thank everybody that has done something for me.
I think someone's dropped a bomb on us, basically. That's what it feels like.
Now, meteorologists will always tell you it's impossible to link a specific extreme weather event with climate change. Although when they're talking about temperatures in Australia across the last century, ranging from 1910, the temperatures have become warmer and warmer, particularly in the last 25 years. These long-term temperatures increases connected to climate change, which in turn is caused by human activity. It's worth remembering that Mr Morrison's deputy stated a set of arguments linking these bushfires to climate change, and that they were the ratings of some pure, enlightened and woke capital city greenies. And yes, he's still the Deputy Prime Minister. The Prime Minister also argues Australia is keeping its side of the bargain on climate change. Here is more from him on this.
Is ensure that our policies remain sensible, that they don't move towards either extreme, and stay focused on what Australians need for a vibrant and viable economy, as well as a vibrant and sustainable environment. Getting the balance right is what Australia, I think, has always been able to achieve. But right now, the focus, as I said at the outset, is to fight these fires and to get people to safety.
The Prime Minister is talking about balance. Let's have a little bit more of a look into this. Australia is the world's third largest exporter of fossil fuels, and a majority of those fossil fuel exports are coal. In 2018, Australia exported $42 billion worth of coal. Of course, fossil fuels are a major contributor to global warming. But of course, as the Prime Minister alluded to, they also create lots of jobs. Around 50,000 workers in Australia are connected to the fossil fuel industry. And we know that around 60% of Australia's electricity comes from coal-fired power stations. Indeed, only just last year, a new coal mine was approved in Queensland. Now, the hottest temperatures on record in Australia, bushfires burning out of control. You might think this is a guaranteed lead story in our mainstream media. In the Sydney Morning Herald, "Escaping the Red Zone" is its headline. But here we have the Australian newspaper owned by Rupert Murdoch, known to lean to the right politically. Its main picture is about horse racing, and its main story is about a yet-to-be-confirmed proposal to restrict alcohol sales in Western Australia. And you can see the bushfires are positioned very small on the left. This is more evidence that Rupert Murdoch does not want to report on major situations within Australia that involve anything to do with climate change. Very biased reporting. Now on to another story. You may remember Rosemary Harwood, the mother of Marjorie Harwood, who was a transgender woman placed into a male-populated prison. There were allegations made that the prison had let down Marjorie after she was sexually assaulted and raped while serving time at Risdon Prison. We have been investigating this matter for a lengthy time now, and we feel the Tasmanian Prison Service, along with the Corrections Minister Elise Archer, have covered up key evidence that could see police making an arrest and solving this case. It's only now that Tasmania Police have told Rosemary that they will no longer be investigating her daughter's case, as there is not enough evidence to go on. It's here we sit down with Rosemary again to find out the latest in what seems to be a twisted and broken case generated by the government. Let's take a look. Rosemary, thanks again for joining us. Since we last spoke to you, have you had any feedback from any government departments?
Not much. Mark Shelton said he won't do nothing, they can't do nothing. CIB had an appointment with them on Friday. They're not doing an investigation, they haven't got enough evidence.
Can you tell me, what did Tasmania Police Detective Damien McVilly say to you at your last meeting with him?
Just said to me straight out, it's not good news, Rose. We can't do an investigation because they haven't got enough evidence. It's hearsay, it's historical, and like you said, they had the muster sheets from the jail. They're saying that Marjorie wasn't housed with those other inmates at the time of the rape. Can't go and accusing them for something that they might not did.
I'm sure it's frustrating to hear Tasmania Police that they won't be investigating because the prison has told them that Marjorie wasn't in the same area as those you suspect. But what are you aware of? Are you aware of how the prison inmates can socialise with each other?
What other people have told me in the past about guards letting other inmates into other inmates. I know a lot. I mean, it's probably only hearsay, but I've had it told to me about a lot of stuff happened in the shower blocks where there's no cameras. So it's just a lot of clogwash, I think, on their part, saying they haven't got enough evidence. And
Recently, the prison guards went on strike for a pay rise and better working conditions. How do you feel about that?
Angry. What do they want to go on strike for? They're on good money. A couple of people have messaged me on Facebook saying, "Oh, you know, they don't get that amount of money." I said, "Well, I know for a fact. I know a couple of guards. They've told me they're on $90,000 a year. That's without overtime." I'd like for them to sit in there at the hospital with Marjorie all the time and having 2 to 4 guards sitting with her in there. Hey, I don't know.
Have the Tasmanian Prison Service spoken to you at all throughout this whole ordeal?
Not spoken to me personally. I've had 2 emails, one November, one in December, saying that you approached them about Marjorie's files. They wouldn't talk to you or anything like that because you're media. So they contacted me through email saying they have one email saying they will get me the information, but they've got to get permission first. So the second email saying, yes, they've got permission, they will forward all that information onto me now.
Have you received anything from him
No.
since?
Then I'm not going to hold me. No, I'm not going to hold my breath.
Have you read the 2018 custodial inspection report that was released?
I've seen 2 of them and I've read both of them. It's just appalling.
And what would you like to say to the Correctional Services Minister, Elisa Archer, today?
Fix this prison down here before you go building another prison. There's so much down here needs fixing, rectifying. Like I've said before, the dog's home at Risdon Vale is kept cleaner than that jail. After reading these 2 reports, it's just filth, a filthy hole. Marjorie used to say to me, "Mum, it's filthy in here."
What are you hoping to achieve within the community of Tasmania?
What I'm hoping out of this is to get the law reform in, to change it so it doesn't happen to other transverse people. I mean, it might help Marjorie now, but it might help someone else, and that would be pleasing for me to know that I've achieved this by Marjorie's death. I've achieved something, even if I only save one life.
And have you had much support from the Premier, Will Hodgman, at all? Have you had any?
No, nothing.
So there's been no contact from Will Hodgman's
No.
office? What are some of the things that the community have shared with you about Marjorie?
How much she was loved. I've even had a video sent of me, her sitting down against a brick wall somewhere in Moona, I think it was, singing and just being herself.
And that's how you remember her? That's how she was?
That's what she was like. And I still say, when she was in jail, they say, treat one to what you want to be treated. Now, I know she treated them badly, but by Jesus, they treated her even badder. They treated her appalling. If they'd have treated her with a bit more respect, maybe she might have had a bit more respect for them.
It goes both ways.
It does.
What would you like from Elisa Archer and, of course, Risdon Prison themselves?
An apology. I know that's going to happen, because they're not going to admit to something, you know, Marjorie told me. But why should those 5 oxygen thieves better walk this earth since Marjorie died? So why should they be allowed to walk this earth and breathe?
It must frustrate you extremely when Tasmania Police say they won't investigate the matter because it's a historical case.
It's historical. I don't know where they get the word historical from. It's only 2 years, like you said, it's not even 2 years old. Yeah, it just makes me, it does. Frustrates me, makes me angry to know and they can do something that's gone back in the 1970s, 1980s, but they can't do something that happened in 2000.
Tasmania Police haven't been very helpful in trying to lift the lid on this case. Do you believe that Detective McVilly knows and understands your frustration?
I don't think he understands.
Yes,
I don't think any police member would understand what a grieving mother's going through.
In the beginning, Tasmania Police Officer Detective Damien McVilly was telling you that it was a strong case and that they felt it was very, very positive, but to now it's all come to a complete halt.
So every time I emailed him or rang him, he'd say, Rosemary, it's still there on my desk, it's not going anywhere, I will get to it when I get to it. And now, all of a sudden, he's called me into the police station to tell me that they're not going to investigate it.
Other community members have reached out to you recently in relation to your rallies and all your social media activities that you've been doing. And one of the mothers shared something with you about her 18-year-old son still serving time in Risdon. I mean, how does that make you feel?
Angry. It's still going on in there. And now he's had a threat on his life. And how do I know they're saying Marjorie didn't report this rape? Now, what's to say that maybe she did report it, but she's had her life threatened. That's why she's decided to die, because she's had a life threatened. She went back in there, then something would happen.
And whilst Marjorie was at the Royal Hobart Hospital, how do you believe that her treatment was?
Well, I feel towards the hospital there's neglect there. Like there's neglect there, there's neglect at the Risdon. Neglect of care for the Risdon, neglect of care with the Royal. Like the rape. They didn't do a rape test on her, a rape kit. A lot of people said there should have been a rape kit involved. Well, there wasn't. There should have been sexual assault people called in. No. But how do I know that for sure? Whether it's just a cover-up.
There's always been the case that Marjorie hasn't been believed in the past, and this has been carried through obviously when she's been going to court. Is that correct?
And it was always one magistrate that sentenced Marjorie to jail. There was no other magistrate that done it. He even stood up and said, she's a he, not a she. He's got a penis. A magistrate to stand up in court and tell her lawyer that. It's so wrong. I don't have no trust in the justice system. I don't have no trust in the health system. Not even in the police. Because, I mean, what's to say, if something like that happened to me and I went to the police, would they believe me?
Do you think the new rules and regulations about transgender laws will be taken seriously by the government?
I just hope the prison system follows through and protect the vulnerable people that go in there. I've got a few friends that they're shit scared of going in there because of their identity. What's going to happen to them?
Well, Rosemary, it's been a long and drawn-out process, and let's just hope that the government actually stop covering up this stuff and actually realise that there was a situation that unfolded and start an investigation. And we do hope that some things happen with the government and that they can shed some light onto this, and that the Tasmanian Prison Service will actually take this matter and these allegations very seriously. Rosemary, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. We really appreciate it.
It's all right. Thanks, Karen, for listening.
Well, since filming of that interview, the United Workers Union issued a media statement calling on Corrections Minister Elise Archer to resign. This comes to light in relation to the lack of transparency over ongoing assaults that are taking place within Risdon Prison. The union have stated Minister Archer has lied about the number of assault cases that are happening daily within her prison. We also feel the Minister's actions to exclude us independent media from the local community events, such as the one at Westbury, in relation to her wanting to build a new prison in the state's northern region, is ridiculous. We should be included whatever mainstream media is permitted, and just shows how biased the Tasmanian government are when it comes to media control and what it can and can't report on. How people are meant to form their own equal opinion in Tasmania is beyond us. We will continue to follow the story of Marjorie, and we hope at some stage the government and Minister Archer finally tell the truth. It's bad enough Ms Harwood suffered the loss of a daughter. She most certainly doesn't need to be lied to by people within government departments who should know better. Tas News 24 wants to hear from you. If you or a family member has suffered any ordeals while serving time or being employed at Risdon Prison, please feel free to send us an email. Remember, you can remain anonymous. That's our program for this evening. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of yourself and others. Bye for now.